Hello, everyone, and welcome to the AI Educator Webinar series. This is the second webinar we've had this week. So if you missed our first webinar, which was on Tuesday, please do go back and check that out on our YouTube channel. Or if you registered, we will have emailed you the link. I'm aware that some of you will have registered for this. Some of you will have just come across it. So I am going to encourage you all to register for this webinar. If you go to the AIeducator.io/MagicSchool, you can register for it. And what that's going to do is you're going to get the follow-up email, which has the link in. You're also going to get put into a prize to win 2 copies of the Educators 2026 AI Guide, which features our guest today, MagicSchool, and the words of their founder, Adeel Kahn, is in there as well. You can get that for free as well now. So if you can get an electronic copy if you sign up for the newsletter at the AIeducator.io. You can still get the hard copy, the paperback, on Amazon, but I'm also going to be giving away 2 copies, one for you and one for a colleague, if you register. And you've got to register so we know who you are. If you are in the chat, please feel free to jump in the chat if you can. It's great to see. We've got Jenny from Oregon there. We've got someone from Arizona, someone from Denver, our guest's home city there, from Indiana. Let us know where you're joining us from. We got someone from Mexico as well just joined. Let us know, and also get your questions in. So this is going to be an in-depth chat between myself and Adeel before we get around to looking at some of the amazing new features in MagicSchool. So join the conversation. I'll be keeping an eye on that chat, and if you've got any questions or any follow-ups for Adeel or myself, then please do get them in there. Okay, we're going to bring our guest in. I had the great pleasure of meeting Adeel a few years ago now, before the launch of MagicSchool. And we chatted online once or twice, and then got to meet Adeel very briefly at the BET show, probably about 3 years ago now. And we've kept in touch ever since, and it's been great to see MagicSchool go from strength to strength and become one of the most used and talked about AI education platforms in the world today. So I'm excited for this conversation. Please welcome Adeel Khan. Adeel, great to see you.
Great to see you too, Dan. Excited to catch up.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do this, because I don't think we've properly had a really in-depth face-to-face catch-up. We've always kind of caught each other. So I'm looking forward to the conversation today. And yeah, let us know where you are, because you're away from home today, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I'm in San Francisco. I live in Denver, Colorado, which is where MagicSchool is based, even though we have teams kind of all over the U.S. and soon to be internationally. I'm in San Francisco this week. I spent Monday and Tuesday meeting with Anthropic's team, learning about what they're building and talking more about our partnership and what's on the horizon and what we should be thinking about as this AI landscape rapidly changes. And it was energizing and inspiring, and excited to bring even more exciting technology to educators when our team gets a hold of some of these newer tech pieces.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? I think just to touch on Anthropic for a moment, I think they now the most downloaded app on the App Store, and some of their advancements over the last few months have been absolutely incredible in terms of Claude co-work and code as well. Yeah, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, Anthropic seems to be taking a little bit of a major leap forward. I always encourage folks who have been maybe using generative AI, whether that be through MagicSchool or through another platform, that some of the frontier products like Claude Cowork, like we were talking about earlier, or Claude Code, or have taken a pretty major leap forward. And one of the things that how the technology has evolved is been through the kind of one of the questions is people are starting to look at the model cards, and like week after week, Gemini comes out with a new model card, and it seems like it's a little bit better than Claude, or Anthropic does the same thing the next week. How do you keep track? One of the reasons why Claude seems to be this thing that people are gravitating toward, and Claude Code's becoming really popular, and so is Cowork, is because when you prompt Claude now, it isn't just like an input output. It's not just the model's responding. Claude is now, under the hood, building managed agentic experiences. So when you request something, especially when it's something pretty complex, there's an agent planning the output, and then there are sub agents that are experts in different skills that end up creating the output, and the output ends up being significantly higher quality. And that's kind of the big leap forward that we're seeing for generative AI tooling right now, is this managed agent architecture where miniature agents can come up with a much more significantly higher quality output. And that's what MagicSchool is jumping into. So we're currently working on our agentic architecture. You can expect a major leap forward in capability for MagicSchool for the same reason. The difference is that our agents will be education experts. Those sub agents that are spawned by a managed agent will be ones that deeply understand educational pedagogy, math as a subject criterion. We'll be checking for things like quality and accuracy and bias, and you can expect a much higher quality from MagicSchool in the same way that you might have seen from Claude for more general use cases.
Yeah, and I know we're going to get into throughout this conversation, if you're listening, we're going to get into MagicSchool. We're going to get into the new updates, the operating system. We're gonna see some of that as well. So if you've joined specifically for that, don't worry, that is coming up. But we want to have a bit of a general conversation as well, I think, because I know, Adeel, you've become, I suppose, a thought leader in AI and education, as well as the CEO and founder of MagicSchool. I don't think there's a day I don't see you on LinkedIn, either in the White House, Congress, or with British royalty on a stage somewhere.
Yeah, I'm like not quite keeping up with you. I feel like you are the big brand in AI and education.
I don't know. I was quite surprised when I saw you with I forget who it was, because I'm not the biggest royalist, but one of our royal family, which was quite impressive to see.
Yeah. I mean, I am also astonished by the pull that I think MagicSchool has with folks. But one of the things I always share with folks who ask about why MagicSchool has gotten like the uptake it has, is because I think we think really hard about our audience and like the like teachers and what they need every day. MagicSchool kind of launched in the moment where like educators were deciding that AI could be really helpful to them in their workflows, and they found MagicSchool and found it really practically useful and simple to use. And that's still the ethos of our company. Like, we every single day are thinking about our user, their use cases, and how we can supercharge them. And our users, educators, and we are mostly educators. I spent my career as a teacher and a principal, and I am taking the pieces of all of this technology and thinking really hard about how it could be impactful to educators. So it's remarkable. We have a lot of international usage, and I was in the UAE recently, and we every time we go, we'll meet with government officials, ministry leaders, and we're always astonished. It's like, we think that like 75% of UAE educators have signed up for MagicSchool. Like, our data would show that, right? And that's kind of true in most countries that have embraced generative AI. I think that's part of it, is that you can usually ask an educator if they know what MagicSchool is, and they'll say yes, and usually that's followed by, and I love it, and it's really helpful. So yeah, I don't know that I've just, that's like been my intention necessarily to be a thought leader. However, one of the things that I really believe is valuable is trust. And like, when I share things on LinkedIn or other spaces, like, they're my genuine thoughts. Like, I wake up in the morning, this is what's on my mind. And I think it's important to build in public, important to be transparent, important that people know me. And like, what I think and those kinds of things. So that's part of the reason. It's like, these are just my authentic thoughts. I write all my stuff, to be clear. I didn't know this was happening. I got like approached by like a ghostwriter who was like, "Hey, I can write your LinkedIn post for you." I was like, "No, I think that it's important that I do that. Like, I think people need to hear from me." So there's like a number of things, and it seems like people seem to like to be connected to the founder of the product that they're using, and they want to be to have some level of relationship. So I love having conversations like this, because I think it just brings some humanity to a lot of the stuff that we're building.
Yeah, and it's why in these webinars we try to get the founder or the CEO to join us, because I think educators want to have that connection, like you say, and I think it's probably just symptomatic of the world we're now in, where there's an influx of ed tech tools, and we were just talking before we went live about the capabilities in coding and the AI agents we're coding, and how a lot of people can knock together tools or bring ideas to life now. And there's so much noise, and then add that to the fact that there's a bit of mistrust around AI out there, and probably more so sometimes within education circles. So, and so people want to hear from, I think, the people who are making these tools. They want to see, do they have an education background, which we know you do, and they want to see what's the intent here. So yeah, it's great to have these conversations. But let's get into MagicSchool then, because as somebody who's been using MagicSchool kind of since day one, and has seen it from that kind of that first iteration, really, and the toolbox of tools that you guys started with, to now you guys just launching the AI operating system. Could you give us a bit of an insight into kind of, I suppose, your journey from the kind of that first iteration? There was that toolbox that teachers have come to know and love, to kind of what you're trying to do now with the operating system.
Yeah. So, most people still know MagicSchool as like this big set of tools, from like a rubric generator to a lesson plan generator to 70 others. And MagicSchool is so much more than that over these last 2.5 years or so that we've been building. We have an incredible student side of the platform that we pride ourselves in as being the safest, most evaluated AI platform for schools. We've written 2 white papers on one is on AI companionship in students and how we mitigate some of the risks of using generative AI and chat with students, and others about the safety loop for students and how we make sure every single thread is moderated, evaluated, and properly moderated for student usage. So, the student side of the platform is definitely something that we're deeply investing in and invested in for the long term, because we think that there are 2 big opportunities for student usage of generative AI. One is personalized learning. So having a really, really safe platform as a foundation allows us to engage in more student identity, and like persistent identity is so important if we're going to have personalized learning. You can't really build personalized learning if you don't know the child's learning ability, their grade level, perhaps their prior test scores. So by building trust and safety in a foundation that like an enterprise grade security, we're going to be able to lean into that and get more personalized to the students' needs, especially their academic needs. There's Bloom's 2 Sigma rule, which is this idea that like, tutoring is the most powerful thing that you can do to move a student in terms of their reading and writing abilities. And that's because the tutor can be right on the leading edge of a student's progress, right? It can be like, okay, I saw that you mastered that. Let me take you to the next skill. A tutor can see that in real time and support the student, help them develop the next skill. So MagicSchool being able to do that, building personalized learning profiles, staying on the leading edge of what the student's ability level is. We're building all the infrastructure, guardrails, safety to make sure that we can get to this place where we can start doing those kinds of personalized learning experiences in a really trusted way in the platform. The second thing that I get really excited about for students and generative AI is creative experiences or builder experiences. So I've always been really excited when I was a principal and a teacher about project-based learning, authentic work, things that you can show and demonstrate that you built something. That might be, using image generation and image editing with AI to create a piece of art. It could also be generating a website or a web app using coding tools that we talked about earlier, like Claude Code. You can build like almost a production grade site quickly, an app that really solves a problem in your community or in your world. And kids can now access that with natural language. I think that's so inspiring. Uh, in addition to learning things faster and just exploring your curiosity. So the idea of like having builder experiences, learning things quickly so you can build in your community and solve for real problems that you're facing today. Those are kind of the two reasons that we think like the evolution of how our student product will grow. But the foundational part of all of that is this enterprise grade security, safety, so you can trust our platform and ensure that it's working well. So like, sometimes we have folks who are really eager of like, I want to do this with our students right now. And I'm like, yeah, we do too. We're right there with you. But we also know that like, if we're going to build this for the enterprises and school districts that we work with, some of which are the biggest in the world, they need to have real assurances, and we have to really, really tight safety measures. And that's where you might see a little bit of like the delay of, hey, we know this exists in the world. Why isn't it in MagicSchool yet? The answer to that question is typically because we're really vetting safety and we're really making it enterprise grade and ready for our partners who we're serving. But we are coming, and it's going to be so cool, and I can't wait to share it with you. And a lot of that infrastructure is already built and continuing to be built. The second thing to your original question is we set out to build an AI assistant for every teacher in the world. Like back when I talked to you, 2.5 years ago, and we launched the app in the world, second day, maybe had 10 users who were just my friends. I had a really ambitious vision. I remember one of my first LinkedIn posts. One of the things about building in public that's really fun is sometimes I'll go back to my old LinkedIn posts that have 3 or 4 likes. They're like, my sister and brother and mom. One of them was an AI assistant for every educator in the world, right? That was kind of the core premise and what we thought we could build, and the biggest dream of what we might imagine. But when we think about what would an assistant do for you, the assistant would have to know your classroom context. They need to know your students, their ability levels. It would need to know the content that you feel is your source of truth. It would need to know your standards that you teach. It would need to know all this context about you if it was going to be a really deeply personalized and useful assistant. So while MagicSchool does help in a lot of different ways in its current form, we think it can be even more helpful if it's more contextually aware of the teacher's environment, their standards, their classroom's progress. And so we're building a lot of kind of scaffolding around that. So memory and how you're using the platform. Enterprises are going to be able to customize the knowledge bases that the platform is informed by. We'll talk about that later when we kind of demo knowledge in the platform. In addition to things like connectors to external sources that you trust, things like your student information system, your perhaps if you use Google Workspace or Microsoft OneDrive, being able to inform outputs with content from those things without you having to reach in and find them, rather it being a direct connection and queried. So we think of it being this like centralized platform that is informed by all the knowledge you might train a teacher's assistant with, that you can keep control of and query directly from MagicSchool. And that would be a truly intelligent AI assistant for every teacher in the world. So those are kind of the two big things that I think about how our product will evolve and kind of our North Star for both students and teachers.
Yeah, and it's so important that you're focusing on that, the safety elements as well as that foundation. What is it, I suppose, what does it look like for a teacher on Monday morning? Because I suppose a lot of people who are with us now will know the I suppose the traditional singular tools that you guys have offered. I used to love using the make it relevant tool. So you just put in any topic, makes it relevant to students. Mm-hmm. And I suppose a lot of educators have loved you guys because of those nice simple tools. I suppose with where you're heading and the operating system, what's that going to look like throughout the day? Is this something that a teacher is going to be plugged into continuously? And yeah, just what's going to change?
Yeah, so imagine all that context that I shared, MagicSchool is connected to. It deeply knows your classroom. You've interacted with it many times already. It has that context. It's so deeply aware of your classroom. So you wake up in the morning at 5:30 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. And you open MagicSchool and you see a set of notifications. Some are recommendations based on your prior actions in the platform, knowledge of your students, uh, how they performed on an assessment that you used and a student took in MagicSchool. Um, and and those actions are kind of already drafted. You click a button, you can take the action right away because it's so personalized to you. It knows what's happening in your classroom. It's connected to things like the assessments you've taken. It's connected to things like your SIS. You could also imagine a use case where it just notifies you that a student's falling behind. Maybe another student's kind of approaching the absence threshold for your school. There are these things that if you worked in a school, like in the first quarter when you're a principal, what you're looking at is absences. Like if a kid gets a certain amount of absences in the first quarter of a school year, it's highly likely they're going to be unsuccessful that year, and they're more likely to fail classes. What if there's an absence threshold that the enterprise has plugged into MagicSchool, and every single teacher is pinged the moment a kid's even approaching that threshold, and the email's already drafted to the parent. You can click send right from MagicSchool as a platform. You can automate a lot of the things that you need to be really focused on and keep track of, and surface it directly in the student's dashboard, in the teacher's dashboard, so they can action it. They can check in with the student to find out why, make sure they're caught up, bring awareness to it. That's a future I think we can all be excited about. This idea that like no child falls through the gaps. If a student starts falling behind, the teacher's notified, maybe even the family eventually is notified, so they can intervene, and making that at the fingertips of a teacher instead of them having to like dig through many data sources, rather having agents do that work and bring those insights to teachers, we think is a really inspiring future.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose you're talking about a genuine assistant there. I suppose to prove your point from earlier that actually some of this technology already exists. So I signed up probably about a month ago for an AI assistant. In fact, it's just messaged me, called Lindy, Lindy, and whenever someone emails me, or if I'm late replying to an email, or it'll send me an iMessage. It'll do a rough draft based on what it knows about me of my response. It'll 15 minutes before a meeting, it'll jump in and say, give me a summary of things like previous meetings I've had with that person. So, we're talking about kind of what we're starting to see, I suppose, in the more commercial side of AI, actually being within the education system, the school, that being able to tell, and that's quite exciting. I suppose. Yeah, we've got a few questions coming in as well. One of them, EdTech Hustle. How does MagicSchool move from admin point solutions to the social active teaching that he says AI misses? I mean, I'm guessing, I don't want to preempt your answer, but I'm guessing you don't want it to encroach on the social side of teaching, do you?
Definitely not. We have there's, I think, kind of like an important thing that I think the core insight of MagicSchool is that teachers are magic. It's a catchy slogan, sweet t-shirts, and I love them, and I love the slogan, but it's because it's true. Like, when I was a principal, when I hired teachers, I founded a public high school in Colorado. When I hired teachers, I told teachers in our first professional development session when we were founding our school that the foundation of the school that we build will be the relationships we keep with our students and our families. Everything else is built on top of that. And that's always going to be true. So like when we built MagicSchool, we built it in a world where there were certain, like if you remember the time, Dan, the high flying thing that was happening in the world was YouTube videos with a chatbot. That was what people were talking about. And YouTube videos with a chatbot were going to teach our kids. Like, people were thrilled about that notion. Like, if you've worked in schools, you know that's just never going to happen, right? Like that is not the way that kids work, and that's not the way that they're inspired to learn. They need a connection with the adult in the building. They need to feel like that there's wisdom that's being offered from their teacher, and we're here to augment the ability for teachers to do their work and become supercharged versions of their themselves. So like in our grandest vision for what this is like teachers get to be even more authentic versions of themselves with their students, and so do students. They get to express their most authentic version of themselves in their voice. Their voice becomes the most important asset they have, right? Even in a world of AI, I think that's the most inspiring thought to me, is that, you know, with AI being able to do a lot of different things, one of the things you can't do is replicate the authentic voice of a child and their experiences, and a human, like those human aspects become amplified. That's kind of what we anchor toward. We're certainly, there's no like weird document we have written in the back about replacing teachers or, or anything like that. Like we're truly built around like what can we do to help schools amplify teachers and unlock student potential.
Yeah, and that's what excites me about AI. I think the way and not just in education, but just the way our working systems, when people go to work, the more often than not, especially with the advent of the personal computer, I feel like people are shackled to their computers more than they should be. And actually, going back to the industrial age, I guess we almost treat each other as cogs within a machine, there to serve a function, and I feel like that can be really unhealthy. And one of the reasons why I get excited about AI is that the potential to unshackle us, the potential to actually allow us to focus more on the human side.
Yeah. One of the things I also think is kind of important to know as this technology rolls out is that some of the things that have happened in the past will start seeping into this technology. It already has. One of which is the optimization for time on platform. That I think might be, if you thought about it critically enough, you'd get that. But like, think about it a little bit harder. Like we are shackled to our cell phones. All of us have some, or many of us, the majority of us have some kind of cell phone doom loop, brain rot. I currently have an app on my phone called Brain Rot that is like intended to help me not use my phone as much, right? Because of the addictive loops that things like Instagram.
I need to get that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It forces me off my phone, right? So we know there have been some really negative downstream effects of the algorithms and the AI algorithms that back some of these platforms like TikTok and Instagram. And those same things are being built into generative AI tools. What you should know is on the technology side of these platforms, their incentive is more time on platform by you, right? Like, so when we talk about the problem of sycophancy in products like ChatGPT, that's actually what they're designed to do. They're designed to give you a good experience so that you continue to come back to them. And you probably noticed that ChatGPT has recently asked you a question at the end. Continue the conversation, right? Like, can make this, you know, I can offer you more, ask more, right? So there is an incentive by the technology companies for you to consume more tokens, right? Like, and we should be incredibly aware of that. And we should also inform children about that so they can be agents of their own destiny and decide how they want to use technology. And also, as just as importantly, how they don't want to use technology, right? So in our platform, we actively, you know, mitigate the sycophancy issues. We reset the context window in our student platform to ensure that students don't get into any of these like sycophantic loops or build potential companionship issues with our chatbot. But in these generalized tools, they're, you know, built to have students become dependent on them just the way that many of us unknowingly became dependent on things like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You know, they were built for these reasons. So we should really guard against that, especially when we're thinking about children.
Yeah, and it seems, I suppose, big tech is a dominant force, and I suppose people might be listening to this thinking, yeah, but our kids are probably still going to go and use ChatGPT or whatever becomes the equivalent of kind of the social media that we've had in recent decades. I suppose, how do you see Magic School helping in terms of, do you want this to be like a complete replacement for students, so that they don't have to use those mainstream chatbots? Yeah, what's the role there?
Yeah, I have a story that illustrates what I hope happens. This is true. It's so sometimes people hear me, they don't believe it, but it's true. I was talking to a student recently, and I've told this story before, so folks who follow me might have heard it. But she's a 10th grader. She goes to school in Colorado. She's a friend of mine's daughter. We were chatting. This is probably like 6 months ago or so, and I went to a basketball game with them, and she'd known me when I was a principal. We were chatting. She found out that I'd built this thing, MagicSchool, and she was like, "Oh, like I use that in my school." I was like, "No way! Like, tell me about how you use MagicSchool. That's like the coolest thing ever." And she mentioned that they were using the writing feedback tool. So the teacher essentially attaches the rubric that the students eventually are going to be graded on to the tool, gives it to students for them to get feedback on their essays, revise their essays before they turn them in, right? And she like could have been like, a commercial for MagicSchool. She was like, "Yeah, I love it. It's amazing. It's so nice to be able to get feedback, and like before the high stakes moment of like turning it in, like I can like revise my essay and be so much more confident that it's like the right thing." And she's a stellar student, so she's going to do everything to make sure it's like perfect, and genuinely revises and thinks about it. Nonetheless, of course, my next question is like, I'm always ultra curious about how the younger generation is engaging with the broad world of AI as we're all kind of in this bubble. I said, what else is happening with AI? Like, tell me about how are your friends using it? Like, what are you using it for outside of MagicSchool and school and the use case you just told me about? And she was like, well, a lot of my friends are using it to cheat. Like, it's like, a shortcut for them, and it's easy. I was like, how about you? Like, what do you use ChatGPT? What do you use it for? And like, her dad was there, but I do think she was being honest. She was like, well, I know I can do that too. But I also know that like my brain's in this really important development moment. I know that I'm going to take tests and they're going to be proctored, and I'm not going to have this thing with me. So I use it really sparingly. Sometimes I use it to like ask a question. Sometimes I'll use it to like, get an idea for something, but I'm actually really conscious about not using it too much, so I don't offload too much of my thinking. I swear to you, this is what she said.
Yeah.
And my first thought was like, wow, like I wouldn't have been this thoughtful when I was a kid. Right? Like how incredible a young lady she is, and that is true. But the second one was, what an amazing school she must have that taught her those things. That there are productive use cases for generative AI that can help you learn and grow. And there are also big risks and opportunities. So I hope that every school that brings MagicSchool on, before they touch the platform with students, they're giving that level of education to students. And we try to enable our school district partners with the kinds of education materials for students where that is the outcome, is like they find that there are really useful use cases, but also there's big risk associated with overdoing it. And the students become agents of their own decision making with technology that hopefully results in what that young lady shared with me is, and maybe some people will use it more. Like maybe the outcome is that I'm using it a lot for vibe coding. I'm using it a lot to like learn things faster. There's versions of her story that could be really great. But ultimately, the fact that she's cognizant of like, I could risk offloading too much of my thinking, that is really important for every child, and quite frankly, adult to know too. We think that our platform is more than just like, a vendor relationship with a school. It is like a partnership, a solution, and something that helps prepare the next generation to be great users of technology.
Yeah, I don't think we give our kids credit enough sometimes. I think it's a very similar story. I was working with a district in upstate New York in Albany about a year or two ago, and I did when I'm working with a district like that, I try to do at least one session where we bring teachers and students together, and we do design thinking, that the idea of an empathy map, where we get students to kind of step in the shoes of their teachers, try and understand what they're thinking and feeling and seeing when it comes to AI, and reverse, the teachers doing it, and it never fails to really enlighten both parties. And I remember in this one session, this teenage girl got up with her empathy map, and she said something like, I use ChatGPT, but I really don't like it. I really don't, because it very quickly gives me an answer, and I know that that's not what I need. And she almost begged the teachers in the room for the school to give them some kind of AI that wouldn't just give them answers, but would help them learn. And it was really quite humbling to see that. And I think, although a lot of the stats that come out say that especially high school students have used AI to do some of the thinking for them, to kind of inverted commas cheat. It's a lot more of a complex picture. I was some data recently. I think it was from Oxford University Press. A big bit of research they did where they found out over 90% of teenagers had learned a new skill with AI.
Yeah.
Now, around 60% felt like it was detrimental to other skills. And I think what that does is it shines a light on just how complex this issue is, and that students are learning with it, but also feel like some of their skills are diminished because of it. Yeah, and I think it does. I remember I interviewed a high school student from San Diego last year, and he kind of, to give me like a bit of an inside look on what students were thinking around this technology, and he put it in a way which really made sense. And he said it feels like the majority of especially the homework that he was receiving, and I kind of, as a teacher myself, kind of related to it, I guess, from a teacher point of view. But he felt like it was just work that was being given to them as just a hurdle to get over. And he said, if you think about it, just like an adult, when we go home on an evening, we want to go out with our friends, we want to go on the Xbox and play with our friends, we want to have dinner with our family. And if we're constantly thinking we've got 3 bits of work to also do that evening, then, and we don't see the meaning behind it, we don't see how it's going to really affect us if we don't do it, then we're going to reach for the shortcut. And I thought, you know what? As an adult, I'd be tempted myself in that scenario. And I thought, how do we as educators then actually sit back down and think, how do we make this work more relevant? How do we make this work? And I suppose coming back to like what you were saying about project-based learning, and how do we make the learning more dynamic so students want to do it, want to take part, see the relevance?
Yeah, you know, one of the things I think is a thought I've been having a lot recently is, you know, we're starting to see across the U.S. especially, and this is happening internationally as well. This actually, it's happening more intensely internationally, is like banning cell phones.
Same here in the UK.
Yeah. And school I founded, we had a no cell phone policy, and this is like before it was cool, I guess, not to say that we're on the vanguard, but it was just, for us, it made so much sense. Why would you need a cell phone when you're in your classroom? Like, there's a task at hand. Like, we're making every minute count for you to be learning. Like, of course, in the philosophy of our school, it wouldn't make sense for you to pull your cell phone out in the middle of class. Kids could keep their cell phones on them, of course, and maybe use them at lunch. And, you know, it wasn't like a draconian policy. But people at more the high schools outside of ours who didn't have that policy just didn't believe it worked. They would tell me, like, what do you mean? Like, don't they like rebel? Like, don't students get really upset? And I actually was like, you'd be shocked at how little issue we had with it. You know, we had plenty of rebellious kids in the school, but like they were like, yeah, you know, like, I'm on my cell phone all the time outside of school. So like, this is, to some degree, I think that they would have said it's kind of a gift, and all my friends are not using their cell phones either. It's nice that I'm not, like, you know, tethered to it. So we didn't get a lot of resistance, I guess, is one really interesting insight. And then I think the second one is, you know, kids generally follow the rules. So like, the problem is, like, we're not giving them rule. Like, that's kind of our job as adults, to give them a couple guardrails and boundaries and tell them what, like, you know, an appropriate use is. Or when we explain to them why cell phones were not in class, they generally were like, okay. And, you know, schools and districts, if you've worked in schools, you know that a rule that doesn't have rationale almost always fails. a rule with rationale, explaining to kids, honoring them as the individuals and humans that they are, about like why we do the things we do, almost always works. And we just have not done that with technology. Like in the history of like technology being a really important part of like the schooling in a child's life, I would say like last 30 years or so, society has failed miserably at teaching kids about responsible use of technology. We're just catching up to that today with like cell phone bans and things like that. And there's these draconian policies and like, but neither here nor there. I kind of agree with them. But like, I think that the fundamental thing is most countries, most states in the US don't have responsible use as standards in schools. Like we don't teach kids how to use technology responsibly. So we leave a vacuum of how to use it, which results in a lot of negative things happening on products like social media products. And now we're like passing laws and things like that. But you and I both know the way to solve this isn't through laws. It's likely through an education and agency and teaching how and why and those kinds of things. If you wake up one day and all of a sudden, your cell phone's taken away from you as a kid and you have no rationale, you have no education, it becomes something that you're really angry about. If you were taught about it, you might be so much more open and willing to go along with it and or like really make a good choice for yourself when adults are not looking. And we need more of that in schools. Like I would love to see some of the work that like code.org has done around like passing laws across the US and like around like requiring kids to learn about computer science and things. We should do the same thing for requiring curriculum in schools around responsible usage of technology.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I always think when I hear of a school that's banned phones is, well, I hope there is another device in the school, one that obviously doesn't have the negatives of a personal cell phone, but where students are learning and learn how to use it responsibly. I suppose it kind of on a similar line there, from I suppose stepping back from the last few years of MagicSchool and seeing school districts that have adopted artificial intelligence like MagicSchool.
Mm-hmm.
And still those districts who are kind of holding off or still kind of not sure what to do. I suppose what's the difference there between a district that's fully implementing a tool like MagicSchool and a district that's not at the moment?
So I would say that we have a really wide spectrum of even our enterprise partners who've adopted. We have ones who are on the incredibly progressive side. They're actually like incentivizing running contests in their schools to have more student usage happening in schools to expose students and educate them. And then we have schools and districts who are actually like, we're not ready for student tools yet. We want our teachers to kind of get aware of the technology, tinker with MagicSchool, understand its opportunities and limitations, and then we'll think about introducing it to students later on. And we kind of think that should be up to the local context. We provide that kind of tooling so you can turn off the student side of MagicSchool if you're a district and not quite ready for it. So on the side of, I'll talk about, you can be really progressive even if you're not using both sides of it, but I'll talk about some of the like really inspiring deployments or use cases that I've seen that have really like moved the needle for schools and districts. So one is this might be somewhat obvious, but when a school and district really deeply thinks about their priorities and the things that they're working on, and then they have a really well-equipped partner. We partner really closely with our districts. We have implementation specialists who work, solutions architects who work like with the district, will meet with their leadership and help them understand that like if that's your priority, this is something that you might build in MagicSchool that can align to it. One of those examples was a district that is really focused on high quality instructional coaching across the district. Human instructional coaching, of course, but they've really committed to a specific philosophy and rubric with which they're going to evaluate their teachers and kind of the practice of teaching in their school district and what excellence looks like. So they have like a really specific vision for what they want to see in their classrooms. And they were able to inform a tool in MagicSchool, a chatbot tool, with that vision that they had kind of anchored around. And the tool itself, they train all of their instructional coaches on the evaluation tool. They train all their teachers on how they're going to be evaluated. If you worked in school districts, this should be pretty familiar to you. And what the district has done is they've informed a tool with that, they've given it instructions, and then they've trained every one of their instructional coaches on that tool. And now when a instructional coach goes into a classroom to do a formative classroom observation, of course, not like the evaluation, the final one, they are taking notes, generating their typical observation. And what the tool does is it takes the observation that they've done and then it translates it into the language of their evaluation framework and the rubric that they're going to be evaluating teachers on. So it's directly connected and makes that connection for the teacher of, oh, if you want to move this on your evaluation framework, here's the like resource, the rubric row that it applies to. And it just makes everything way more aligned, which is what the intention of those kinds of initiatives are, is like alignment, is that you want every one of your teachers who is getting feedback to be getting feedback in the language of the rubric so that they can talk about it with the same language. The instructional coaches are giving feedback in the same language, and yet it's still controlled by the human. The human is the one making the observation, is the one that's like making the judgment as to what's going, but the AI tool is augmenting that by making it really directly connected and ensuring that it's helping the teacher progress on the rubric that will hopefully get them a really strong evaluation, a raise, and all that good stuff that happens when you perform well against your district's performance criteria.
Amazing. I think, should we see it? Because I know you've got some demonstrations to show us. Your screen, I think, has dropped out, so you'll need to share it again, Adeel. But Adeel's gonna bring up some demonstrations of the capabilities of the new operating system and some of the new features there, which excited to see. While Adeel's doing that, if you've got any questions for Adeel, please do get them in the chat. I've been watching the comments as they've been coming in, so it's great to see you talking amongst yourselves and helping each other in there as well. But if you've got any direct questions for Adeel, please do get them in over the next 5 to 10 minutes, because we'll be wrapping up very shortly. But yeah, Adeel, I'm going to bring your screen in there, and I'm going to hand over to you.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to talk kind of a super fast way through our AI operating system for schools. We did a webinar on this a few weeks ago now that you can catch on our YouTube channel. You can watch the entire thing and get much more detail about the things that I'm sharing. But we are building the next generation of our platform, the AI operating system for schools. And I want to start with like the vision of the way we see classrooms in the future. Imagine starting your day very early in the morning, as many educators do, and you open MagicSchool, and an educator sees things like a student falling behind and a notification about that, another approaching their actions threshold, and you already have actions drafted, a remediation plan ready, a parent email ready, you can click and send right in platform. Every student was seen and served, and the educator is in control of every one of those moments. For the student, they're always learning in their zone of proximal development. MagicSchool now knows their learning profile and gives them material that is at the leading edge of their ability levels. So it's not too easy that they stagnate, and it's not so hard that they disengage. They grow no matter where they started. And then the school leader gets 0-day insights. They're always able to connect into the most important data for their kids, not waiting until the end of the quarter, but seeing what's happening now through all the interactions across the systems that they work with. And then the parent has a simple dashboard where they can ask questions about their child, connected to all the relevant data about their learning and their progress. And they can be accelerants and advocates for their students in ways that were once hard to access, both in and out of school. And I'm going to jump into a couple features, but first, you should know that we think about our platform in these 4 paradigms. So one is AI safety, governance, and control, that foundation that we build on everything in our platform. We do heavy evaluations. We have a trust, safety, and quality team that ensures that everything in MagicSchool is kept safe for students and really high quality for educators. We have our own suite of evaluators that ensures that the quality of the tooling that we build is the highest that an educator can expect. We have an educator workspace, MagicSchool's tools, and Arena as a chatbot, and even more that we're building, and which will eventually evolve into much deeper workflows and managed agents. A student workspace, I described this earlier, where we have so many exciting things coming, but the two big paradigms are authentic work that students can use these AI tools of the future to build, in addition to personalized learning, as I described before, that's always on the leading edge of where a student's learning. And then a district workspace. We know that local context is incredibly important for the product to be valuable to a district. So we give you tons of control at the school or district level to customize MagicSchool so that the outputs and what teachers and students see is exactly what you want them to see and align to your school or district's priorities. So a couple of things that we've launched recently into the platform. First is class writing feedback. I have really limited time, so I'm going to let Andrew, who's the voice behind MagicSchool, explain this a little bit more in the next video.
Class writing feedback. And MagicSchool has had writing feedback for a while now, but this will allow you to streamline it and give feedback to your entire class all at once. This feature streamlines feedback on student writing by helping teachers review, personalize, and return rubric-aligned comments in batches. Teachers deliver high-quality feedback faster while reducing grading time and burnout. It allows you to do what you're already doing as an amazing teacher, working with students one-on-one, helping them grow in their writing abilities, while the rest of the class is still able to get feedback immediately rather than having to wait for a long period of time.
So if you pause that, or if you go back to it when you're watching the webinar that's available on our YouTube channel, you'll find one of my most exciting things about that is the aggregate insights across all of your students. So after you do your class writing feedback in a large batch, you also get maybe across your 100 or 140 students, like I had in my English classes, you'll get aggregate insights and next steps that you can take for all of your students. It's ridiculously cool. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend. That's live in the platform now. Next up is Studio Mode. And we're going to be building this both into, it's live in our educator platform now, and we're also building this into the student platform for more of the builder experiences, but let's check it out.
First, we have Studio Mode. Studio Mode introduces a document-style workspace where teachers can generate, edit, and organize lesson materials in one clean, structured place. Instead of content just living in the chat, teachers can build real instructional materials they can refine, export, and actually use, including the ability to add images, make formatting changes, and put your human touch into the AI generations.
Studio Mode is just rolling out, but again, it will be in the platform for students very soon. And we're really excited about that window, allowing students and teachers to build much richer artifacts and be able to edit and iterate on them with AI. And then we also have assessment built into the platform. This is really important to us because it's going to help us inform things like our student profile, as well as give students generative AI feedback on things beyond writing to help them grow in their learning, as well as potentially have additional experiences based on the scores that they get on the assessments that are built. So we think this is a foundational element of the education process and will be a really important part of our ecosystem as it grows. But let's check out Magic Quizzes right now.
Magic Quizzes helps teachers create standards-aligned formative assessments in seconds and provides clear summaries of student understanding. Teachers get timely insights they can act on right away, supporting more responsive and data-informed instruction. And personally, as a former educator, I look at this tool as being perfect for pre-assessments, so you can see what your students already know, or an exit ticket after you've just taught a tough lesson. You want to see how much did my students actually grasp.
I would also be using this for literally every one of my exit tickets when I was a history teacher, because it would have given me instant grading, students instant feedback, and as well as help inform my next lesson. Really awesome use case for generative AI and assessment right now that I highly encourage for those of you where you're doing regular formative assessments on a daily basis. Magic Quizzes is incredible for that, and it is evolving and growing and going to be even more robust in the near future. There were some questions in the chat I saw around integrations and how are you going to be integrating with more and more platforms to make this a more centralized, interoperable experience. That's where the next part comes in. So in this world we have right now, we have integrations into MagicSchool that are pretty standard. You can log in through SSO. There are some things that can communicate back and forth in a couple of different LMSs, but we want to go deeper with some of our work. One, when we talk about our district workspace, we have knowledge. So you can start building in your own curriculum rubrics and policies that apply all across MagicSchool tools as well as Reina. So external content you can bring into the platform to make sure it's a more aligned experience and aligned to the local context of a school or district. Let's check out knowledge.
Knowledge allows schools and districts to upload approved documents like curriculum guides, rubrics, or policies and apply them across MagicSchool. This ensures consistent district-aligned instruction and helps teachers work confidently from a single source of truth. If your district has an enterprise account, they'll be able to upload these important documents to this knowledge base so it informs all of the MagicSchool tools that you use on your campuses. So if you have a certain framework that needs to be applied to every lesson plan tool, you'll be able to do that from the district level.
That's what we're talking about with more district control, being really confident and conscious about what is coming out of the generative AI tool instead of a lot of disparate tools that your teachers might be using that might not be aligned to what you're hopeful for and aligned to the priorities of the school or district or the standards. This is what I meant by kind of more deep integrations is our knowledge graph, which will create kind of the why and the relationships between all the data that happens in a school building. So knowledge base is kind of like, think of it as content and how we can make sure that everything is really aligned to these single source of truth types of content documents. Knowledge graph is where data comes together and the relationships between that data form powerful insights for the educator. And you'll see, I think, some really exciting stuff in this next demo. Probably the thing I'm most excited about is what this is going to allow for. And I think it answers that question around integrations and interoperability.
Let me show you what we mean when we say the knowledge graph turns AI into meaningful, personalized workflows. When I ask Reina about Lindsay, the response is grounded in real classroom context. MagicSchool is pulling together data from my SIS, my LMS, and district-approved curriculum and standards, and stitching those signals into relationships the knowledge graph understands. That's how Reina knows how Lindsay is progressing across Florida standards over time. You can see that Lindsay is strong conceptually, but still struggling with some skills. Reina doesn't just summarize that. It shows which standards she has mastered, which are developing, and where it should spiral back to support her learning. Now, let's look at Johnny. Here, the knowledge graph is again connecting data across grades and enrollment from the SIS, assignment completion from the LMS, and communication rules from my district's parent communication platform. Reina detects a grade drop, sees multiple missing assignments, and understands that this pattern requires parent outreach. Instead of just stopping at the insight, Reina helps me act. It drafts a parent message in the family's preferred language and ties it back to the district policy that triggered it. That's the power of the graph. It connects data across systems and turns context into guidance that fits naturally into how I teach every day.
So we are building so many more cool things at MagicSchool. I hope that some of that's a nice teaser. Much of that is live in the platform right now. Some of the more integrated versions of that experience, especially the last one, will be coming very soon. And we can't wait to share it with you. So if you're interested more about how your district or school could be using MagicSchool or getting some of those really enterprise level features to make this really deeply customized, please check us out on these websites here. You can find it really easily on magicschool.ai. And of course, highly encourage you to continue to just check out MagicSchool and use it. And I'm open to any questions that we have as we close things out, Dan.
Yeah, we've got a couple of minutes left, and I think we've got one question that hasn't been answered so far. Do you have any general suggestions for initial rollout of MagicSchool to teachers and staff, or anywhere where anyone can find resources to help them with that?
Yeah, if you go to our website, we have a resources section of our website with a lot of pre-made professional development decks that you can simply download and customize for your district. They're also just ready to go out of the box if you want to use them right away, but also allow for a little customization if you'd like to. There's also a lot of, we have coursework that is all free and available on our website that end in a certificate. So you can get our certification courses up and going, and those are really nice for teachers because they can take them asynchronously whenever they get like free time, maybe in a passing period or a planning period, and they're really bite-sized and easy for teachers to pick up and learn from. And then the last one is if you're doing this in your school or you're a tech coach who's ready to run a PD, the most successful PDs are almost always the ones that give the kind of the overview, safety, what this technology is. That's kind of the way our PD decks are shaped. And then we just let people tinker. We say, jump into the platform. I think one of our more popular PDs is simply just a scavenger hunt around the platform. Try a couple things, make it really practically useful for folks, and give them time to actually explore all the tools and things they can do with it. Those are often the most powerful experiences, and educators start getting excited, sharing some things they did with others in MagicSchool, in partners. So just highly encourage a lot of open-ended tinkering time.
Amazing. Adeel, thanks so much for joining us and for catching up and having a great conversation around just AI in general as well, and education, and then sharing with us some of the amazing things that you're doing at MagicSchool. Keep going from strength to strength. It's been amazing to see the journey of MagicSchool and in your personal journey as well, and looking forward to seeing what else is on the horizon for you.
Yeah, Dan, thank you so much. The feelings are mutual. It's been so inspiring to see your journey, and you're doing such incredible work for schools and districts, and you're doing it on the ground, which I just think is so inspiring. You're in schools, you're doing the work, and kudos to you. And you are certainly one of our inspirations at MagicSchool. So thanks for all you do.
Thanks so much, Adeel. Really appreciate that. Enjoy the rest of your time in San Francisco, and speak soon.
Thanks. We'll chat soon. Bye, everyone.
That was Adeel from MagicSchool. I hope you enjoyed that webinar with us. Don't forget, if you go to the AIeducator.io, you will get a free electronic copy of the Educators 2026 AI Guide featuring MagicSchool, featuring Adeel, and lots of other amazing tools and case studies, and some fantastic chapters written by some amazing educators from around the world. If you can get a hard copy as well, if you'd like a hard copy from Amazon, or I am going to give away 2 copies to somebody who has registered for this webinar at the AIeducator.io/MagicSchool, and there's some more details for you there on the screen. Have a lovely evening or rest of the day, whatever time it is in the world for you, and I will message out, email out in the newsletter about upcoming webinars in the coming weeks and months. Thank you so much, everybody, and take care.